All right, so today we're going to be exploring something pretty interesting. I think we're going to be diving into the world of semen retention,
Oh, okay.
but we're going to be looking at it specifically through the lens of Ayurveda.
Right.
You had shared this YouTube video from FitTuber Hindi,
Yeah.
where the host Vivek really makes the case for semen retention
Yeah.
and even compares it to kind of what modern science has to say about it, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. It is a fascinating contrast, isn't it?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we often hear about the, supposed benefits of regular ejaculation,
Right.
but Ayurveda takes a completely different stance.
Totally. And the video really dives right into this whole idea of varia.
Mm-hmm.
And just so everybody listening is on the same page,
Yeah,
this isn't just about sperm.
right.
It's about a vital life force energy
Exactly.
that Ayurveda says exists throughout our bodies.
Exactly. And it's this concept of virya that underpins this whole idea of semen retention in Ayurveda.
Mm-hmm.
The video even uses this analogy of eyesight.
Our eyes need this energy to function just like our ears need it to hear.
It's almost like this energy is what powers our senses.
Yeah, like a battery.
Like a battery.
Yeah.
And without enough of it, things start to kind of go downhill.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you, but I've definitely experienced that feeling of total drain after ejaculation.
Right.
Like a fatigue that goes beyond just being physically tired.
Yeah, the video actually touches on this.
Does it?
Vivek points to Indian saints and even some modern athletes who practice semen retention
Wow.
and claim it gives them increased strength and stamina.
So it's almost like they're tapping into this reservoir of virya
Yeah,
to enhance their physical and mental capabilities.
exactly.
Okay, so what about the science?
Well,
Does modern science even acknowledge this idea of virya?
that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Modern science focuses primarily on the physical components of semen,
Okay.
while Ayurveda emphasizes this deeper energetic connection.
So it's almost like they're speaking different languages, even though they're talking about the same thing.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
You know, the video makes a really important point
Okay.
about how scientific understanding is constantly evolving.
Hmm.
I mean, think about how our views on dietary fat and alcohol have shifted over time.
Right.
What if in the future science catches up to this idea of virya
Interesting.
and its connection to semen retention?
That's a really intriguing thought.
Yeah.
If we're open to considering different perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
we might just uncover insights that we've been overlooking.
Right.
Okay, so let's dive into what Ayurveda actually says about the benefits of semen retention.
Okay.
What does this video highlight?
Well, prepare to be amazed.
Okay.
The video claims a whole range of benefits.
Okay.
From increased energy and stamina, which we've already touched on,
Yep.
to a more youthful appearance,
Oh.
sharper mental focus,
Mm-hmm.
enhanced willpower, and even greater creativity.
Wow, that's quite a list.
It is?
It makes you wonder if there's something to this whole virya concept.
Right.
And the video uses some pretty vivid imagery to illustrate these benefits,
Yeah.
like comparing someone who practices semen retention to a person radiating an inner glow,
Right.
appearing years younger than they actually are.
Right. And on the flip side,
Okay.
excessive semen loss is compared to the charred remains of a burnt-out wooden house.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Talk
Okay.
about a powerful visual.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think twice.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure some listeners are wondering, how does this apply to those in a relationship or
Hmm.
married couples?
Sure.
Is Ayurveda saying intimacy is completely off the table?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And something the video addresses directly.
Okay.
It emphasizes that even within marriage, Ayurveda recommends moderation.
Okay.
The ideal, according to this perspective, is to reserve sexual activity primarily for procreation.
So even within a committed relationship, there's this idea of finding a balance
Right.
that respects this concept of virya as a precious life force.
Exactly. And while reserving sex solely for procreation might sound unrealistic for many,
Right.
the video actually offers some more practical advice.
Okay, I'm all ears. What does it suggest?
It draws upon ancient scriptures to propose that engaging in intercourse with one's partner once every 15 to 20 days
Okay.
aligns with the principles of brahmacharya or celibacy
Mhm.
and still provides its benefits.
So it's not about complete abstinence,
Right.
but conscious moderation.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, let's say someone is intrigued by this concept
Yeah.
and wants to try practicing semen retention,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're a bit skeptical.
Right.
where do they even begin?
Well, the video emphasizes that the urge to ejaculate while intense is temporary. It's like
Oh,
a wave that will crest and then subside if you just ride it out.
okay.
It also offers a really helpful analogy.
Okay.
Trying to satisfy that urge is like pouring ghee or clarified butter onto a fire.
Meaning it just makes things more intense.
Precisely so,
Yeah.
instead of feeding the urge. The video suggests recognizing that it will pass.
Okay.
If you just resist it, it also compares the mind to a child throwing a tantrum in a toy store,
Okay.
constantly demanding things. You are the parent,
Okay.
and you can choose whether to indulge those demands or to stand firm.
That's such a relatable analogy.
It is.
I mean, it really highlights that we have more control over those urges than we might think.
right. Okay.
The video also stresses the importance of staying busy and engaged
Mm-hmm.
to avoid dwelling on sexual thoughts
Okay.
and managing your media intake. Avoiding things like pornography
Yeah.
that trigger those urges is key.
All of that makes a lot of sense. But let's
Yeah.
be real. What about those times when it's unintentional, like nocturnal emissions or nightfall?
That's a common concern, and the video addresses it head on.
Okay.
It clarifies that nightfall is a natural process
Okay.
and involves a less potent form of semen compared to intentional ejaculation.
There's even a quote from a spiritual leader stating that nightfall isn't considered a violation of celibacy in the same way as conscious ejaculation.
That's reassuring. So it's not about being perfect,
Right.
but rather making conscious choices whenever possible.
Exactly. And speaking of conscious choices, the video also dives into diet,
Okay.
which is a big part of Ayurveda.
Mm-hmm.
It actually uses a really helpful metaphor to illustrate this point.
Ooh, I love a good metaphor. What is it?
It compares trying to replenish lost semen without addressing its loss to trying to fill a pot with a hole in the bottom.
Oh,
Essentially, you need to address the root cause of the depletion
okay.
before you can effectively replenish.
So managing those urges is the first step.
Right.
But once that's addressed, what kind of dietary advice does the video offer?
It highlights a range of natural sweets like ripe bananas, dates, mangoes, and chiku,
Okay.
along with various milk products like milk yogurt, cheese butter, and koya.
So foods that are traditionally considered nourishing and strengthening in Ayurveda.
Exactly. It also recommends lentils, especially black gram, and vegetables like okra, taro root, jackfruit, and cluster beans.
Wow.
And let's not forget seasonal delights like carrot halwa and kheer.
Wow. There's definitely an emphasis on nutrient-dense foods
Absolutely.
that are traditionally thought to be building and revitalizing.
Absolutely. But the video doesn't stop at diet. It also delves into the world of Ayurvedic supplements.
Okay.
It actually recommends a 3-tiered approach, starting with a gentler option and gradually progressing to more potent herbs.
Okay, let's break it down. What does that look like?
Level 1 involves taking ashwagandha and shatavari tablets with warm milk for 3 months.
That sounds like a good starting point. What about level 2?
Level 2 focuses on pure shilajit, a resin from the Himalayas.
Okay.
It's recommended to consume it in small amounts with milk, also for 3 months. The video specifically mentions it being particularly beneficial during the winter months.
Fascinating. And finally, level 3.
Level 3 involves a blend of 4 potent herbs:
Okay.
ashwagandha, shatavari, saved muesli, and conch bij.
Got it.
These are mixed with powdered mishri or rock sugar and taken with warm milk again for 3 months.
Wow, that sounds like a powerful combination. It's interesting how the video emphasizes a gradual approach.
Right.
Starting with one supplement for a period of time before moving on to the next.
Right, and it even goes so far as to recommend a specific brand of Shilajit Rik, highlighting its high fulvic acid content and lab testing. Of course, it's important to remember that this is a product endorsement within the source material.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's always good to keep that in mind so far. It seems like this video is jam-packed with information, both about the Ayurvedic perspective on semen retention
Right.
and practical tips for incorporating those principles into your life. But there's a lot more to unpack here, especially when it comes to how this perspective might shift our understanding of sexual energy as a whole.
You're absolutely right. This idea of virya challenges us to think about sexual energy in a much broader context beyond just the physical realm. We'll dive deeper into that after a quick break.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
It's interesting, because Ayurveda doesn't just look at semen retention as just like some kind of health hack.
Right, yeah.
It's really tied into this much bigger idea of how we use our energy.
Yeah, that's what's so fascinating about it, I think.
Yeah.
It really challenges how we often view sexual energy in our modern society.
Absolutely. Instead of it just being about like pleasure or procreation, Ayurveda really puts forth this idea that sexual energy, this virya, is actually a really precious resource
Right.
that we can actually cultivate and harness.
Exactly. It's like woven into every aspect of our being,
Yeah.
not only affecting our physical health, but also our mental clarity, our emotional resilience,
Wow.
even our creative potential and willpower.
I mean, if we really think about that, that's a pretty radical departure
It is.
from how sexual energy is often portrayed, right? It's usually
That.
like relegated to something purely physical,
Yeah.
sometimes even trivialized.
Right.
But what if, as this video suggests, virya is actually this potent force that permeates our entire being? What are the implications of that?
Right.
How might it change our approach to relationships, to our own personal growth, even to our understanding of spirituality?
You've hit on some really important questions there, and the video does touch on the concept of moderation within marriage,
Hmm.
but it definitely leaves a lot of room for further exploration.
I'm also curious, are there other traditions or philosophies
Oh, yeah.
that share this view of sexual energy?
There certainly are. I mean, the video mentions figures like Swami Vivekananda, Ramakrishna, Paramahansa,
Wow.
Buddha, and even Jesus,
Wow.
all advocating for some form of semen retention.
So this idea has roots that go far beyond just one tradition or one culture.
Exactly. It's a concept that seems to resonate across different spiritual paths and throughout history, and that makes you wonder if there's something deeper at play here, something beyond just an ancient belief system.
It definitely piques your curiosity, doesn't it?
It does.
And I think, even if you're not completely sold on the specifics of Ayurveda, exploring these alternative perspectives, I think, can really shake up our assumptions
Mhm.
and open us up to entirely new ways of thinking about ourselves and the world around us.
I completely agree. It's like adding new colors to your palette as an artist.
Yeah,
Suddenly you have a whole new range of possibilities for expression and creation.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up our deep dives into this video on semen retention, from an Ayurvedic perspective,
Right.
what are some key takeaways for our listener?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's about recognizing that Ayurveda offers a fundamentally different way of understanding semen retention.
Okay.
It views it as a key to unlocking greater vitality and well-being on multiple levels.
And at the heart of this perspective lies this concept of virya,
Right.
this vital life force energy that goes far beyond just a physical substance.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our sexual energy is deeply interconnected with our overall health, our mental clarity, even our spiritual potential.
And the video provides some practical tips for anyone curious about experimenting with semen retention. Everything from dietary recommendations to specific Ayurvedic supplements.
Right. And even if someone isn't ready to commit to the practice fully, simply becoming more aware of their sexual energy and how they're choosing to use it can be a powerful first step.
I completely agree. Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listener with a question that goes beyond what we've discussed so far. If this concept of virya as this vital life force really has merit, if this concept of virya as this vital life force really has merit, how might that change our understanding of sexual energy and its potential beyond purely physical aspects?
That's a really profound question.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of pushes us to think about sexuality in a whole new light.
Totally.
What if instead of just viewing it as like a source of pleasure or, a means for reproduction, we start to see it as this potent energy that can be channeled
Yeah.
and directed for different purposes?
Like we're being asked to redefine what sexual energy even is.
Yeah.
I mean, could it be a wellspring of creativity, a source of inspiration,
Yeah.
even a driving force for personal transformation and spiritual growth?
Those are all possibilities worth considering. And, while this video really focuses on semen retention as a way to kind of tap into this energy,
Right.
I think it also points toward a much larger conversation about how we can become more conscious and deliberate with our sexual energy in all its expressions.
And I think that's a really powerful takeaway.
Yeah.
For our listeners, even if the specifics of Ayurveda aren't really your thing,
Right.
the idea of treating sexual energy as a force that can be cultivated and channeled, I think is really fascinating.
It encourages us to move beyond a purely physical understanding of sexuality and really explore its deeper potential.
So whether you're intrigued enough to explore semen retention, want to delve deeper into the world of Ayurveda, or simply want to become more mindful of your own relationship with sexual energy,
Right.
I think this deep dive has hopefully sparked some new insights and questions for you. And remember, knowledge is most valuable when it inspires us to keep asking questions,
Mm-hmm.
to keep exploring, and to keep expanding our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Beautifully said.
And on that note, we'll leave you to continue your own exploration of this fascinating topic. Until next time, keep diving deep.